Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining us for our monthly webinar. And today we're focusing on Social Security planning. I'm Betsy Kenyon. I'm the marketing coordinator here at Elevate Wealth Advisory. I see some new faces today. And so if you're not aware of Elevate and all we do, we are a wealth advising firm in Athens, Georgia, but we do serve clients all over the country. We are led by our president and CEO, Deanne Rosso, who is here with us today and will be our speaker. She does not look like it, but Deanne just celebrated 20 years with Elevate Wealth Advisory. We did start her in the firm when she was just 10 years old.
Uh-huh.
Deanne, we're so glad to have you with us today talking about this very important topic. I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Betsy. And yeah, it doesn't feel like it's been 20 years. Yes, thank you for that compliment that I started when I was 10. Obviously, I started later than that, but it really is, as the saying goes, time flies when you're having fun. And I love what we do. I love what we do for clients and the relationships that we have with our clients. And so it really has been 20 years that's just flown by. But I've picked up a bit of knowledge over the last 20 years. And so I'm excited today to talk about Social Security and to share with you not only information about Social Security, but some of the experiences that we've had when it comes to Social Security claiming and filing for your benefits. So I'm going to share my screen so that we can get some slides. So y'all have some visuals today. So today's topic is Social Security planning. Why wait? Early versus delayed claiming strategies. So, why wait? That could go two ways. It could go the way of why wait? Do it now. Or it could go the way of why wait and why it's important to wait. And I think that the things that I'll go through today, you'll see that either answer to that question could be the right answer for you. But this topic came up because we have so many people that ask us about Social Security and when is the optimal time to file for your benefits. And so, in that context, sometimes, and I specifically chose this photo also to use as my title slide because it looks like a bunch of people just talking. And it looks like this guy right here, if I were to like caption this photo, it would be like everybody laughing at this lady right here because she hasn't claimed her Social Security benefit yet. And they're like, why? Why are you waiting? It's the best thing. Everybody's doing it. And so in that context, something that I hear a lot are three common phrases. Um, and these three phrases that I'm going to use to guide today's webinar are, I've paid into the system for a long time, so I want to get my benefit as soon as possible. I hear that a lot. Another phrase that we hear a lot is, I'm not going to live a long time, so I want to make sure I get something out of it. And then the third phrase, which alludes to the photo that I was sharing earlier, which is, all my friends think I'm crazy for waiting. And I hear this a lot. In fact, I'm going to pick on my mother-in-law for a second. We created a strategy for her Social Security. And she says this to me all the time. All my friends think I'm crazy for waiting. My brother thinks I'm crazy for waiting. My sister thinks I'm crazy for waiting. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today as well. So let's get started with the first phrase, which I turned into a question, which is, I've paid into the system for a long time. Why would I wait to claim my benefit? Well, let's talk about that with a little bit of a pop quiz. What is the official name of Social Security? And if you want to put it in the chat box, feel free to. If I were doing this live, I'd ask if anybody knew the answer. But since we're not live, I'll give you a second to think about it. But the official name of Social Security is OASDI, and that stands for Old Age Survivors and Disability Insurance. And I underlined insurance here because a lot of times we forget that. Social Security is a social insurance program. And sometimes we just need to remember to think of it in that context. I think you have to think back to the beginnings of Social Security, why it even started. And that was just after Great Depression era, and when a lot of folks in this nation needed help. They needed income. They needed something so that they could, quote unquote, retire, even though life expectancy then was very young. And so, the Social Security system was created at a time when life expectancy was young, so they didn't anticipate a lot of people claiming the benefit. But it is also designed to benefit lower income earners more. And I'm not going to go into all of that today, how the calculation works and all of that. But essentially, Social Security is inflation protected income, and you've paid a premium in every paycheck. So you want to be smart about how and when you collect it. If you think about any other kind of insurance that you pay into, sometimes you don't even want to get a benefit out of that insurance. Do we want to get a benefit out of our life insurance? Typically not. Do we want to get a benefit out of our car insurance? Um, only if something bad happens, like our car is damaged, we're in an accident. And so sometimes just thinking about Social Security in that context is helpful. You paid in a premium, and now you want to be smart about how and when you collect it. So, the first thing I want to share is talking about Social Security inflation adjustments. Annually, the Social Security Administration offers inflation adjustments to the benefit. So, this chart just shows that if you had a $2,000 benefit today, and we're assuming a 2% cost of living adjustment, that in 10 years, that benefit is going to be $2,438. And in 20 years, it's going to be $2,972 a month. And in 30 years, it's going to be $3,623 a month. And that adds up to a lot over a lifetime. If we're using just average life expectancies, that could be in 10 years, a total benefit of $262,000, in 20 years, $583,000, and over a 30 or more year lifespan, that could be nearly $1 million in benefits. And that's if your benefit is $2,000 today. So it adds up to a lot of money over time. And as the slide says, it offers income you can't outlive. So, what does your benefit depend on then? And I just used a $2,000 a month benefit, but obviously it's different and it's based for each individual, and it's based on how much you earned over your working career and the age at which you apply for benefits, which is why the question, why wait, comes into effect. So your monthly benefit will be reduced if you claim early. It may also be reduced for taxes and Medicare premiums, which I'm not necessarily going to talk about today, but benefits could also be withheld if you work. So the key statement here is your benefit will be reduced if you claim early. And what does that look like? So first, let's talk about FRA. FRA is the acronym for full retirement age. This is the age at which you get your full unreduced Social Security benefit. And legislation, it used to be 65 for everybody, but legislation in 1983 changed the full retirement age based on your year of birth. So if you were born before 1943, it is still 65, and everyone probably would have claimed that benefit by now. If your year of birth was 1943 to 54, your full retirement age is 66. If you were born 1960 and later, your full retirement age is 67. And then we have this period of years now where it's 66 and some combination of months, depending on what year you were born. But this is the age at which you'll get your full unreduced benefit. What if you apply early? And if you apply early, you will receive a percentage of your PIA. That's your primary insurance amount. Your primary insurance amount is the amount you will get at your full retirement age. So if you apply early, then if you apply at age 62 and your full retirement age is 66, you'll get 75% of your benefit. And if your full retirement age is 67, you'll get 70% of your benefit. So 62 is the earliest you can claim your own Social Security benefit. The only rule where you could claim earlier is at age 60 if you are applying for a survivor benefit, which we're not really going to cover today. So 62, for the most part, is the earliest age you could apply for benefits. But the age at which you apply matters because when you start your Social Security, if you start early, it's lower because of this reduction in benefit, and it stays lower for the rest of your life. So that's why applying early is such an important decision factor because it not just impacts you today, it impacts you going forward as well. On the flip side, what if you apply later? What if you wait until after your full retirement age? You'll earn 8% annual delayed credits for every year that you wait. So if you apply at age 66, it's 100% if your FRA is 66, or you do have a reduction if your FRA is 67. But at age 67, it's 108, age 68, 116, age 69, 124, all the way up to 132% of your PIA if you wait, or 124% if your FRA is 67 by waiting until 70. And it doesn't pay to wait beyond 70. So I'm not suggesting that you wait forever, obviously. 70 is the last age that you would want to apply for that benefit. But that 8% annual delayed credit makes a big difference. So why and how does it make a big difference? It's because it gives you bigger checks to start. And so if we're looking at the age at which you claimed benefits at age 62, and we're talking here about someone whose full retirement age is 67, then your benefits without COLAs, another acronym, cost of living adjustments, we're going to talk about that in a minute. That's your inflation protection. If your benefit is $2,100, then for every year you wait, here we go to 62, 63, 64, and here's the percentage of the PIA that you claim. So if you started early, you get $2,100. But if you start at your full retirement age, you get $3,000. And if you wait until age 70, you get $3,720 a month. And that's a big difference, but it's a really big difference when you also factor in cost of living adjustments. Because not only do you get 8% delayed credits for every year you wait, but that benefit is also adjusted by whatever the cost of living adjustment is for that year. And I'm going to show you that in just a minute. But going from filing as early as possible and getting $2,100 a month to waiting until 70 and getting a potential $4,359 a month, that's more than double the amount of benefit just by waiting. And I know I say just by waiting, that's 8 years of waiting. And trust me, I get it. But that's a large benefit. And 8 years of waiting compared to your life expectancy could actually be a short amount of time and really play to your benefit. So, obviously, then it also gives you more benefits later on because if you wait until age 70 to claim, and you start with that $4,359 a month, then those cost of living adjustments that you're going to get make a bigger difference every single paycheck. And you can see the differences in the chart here. If you started at 70 and if you were 70 years old and you had started at age 62 and you got, you would get $2,460 a month based on the cost of living adjustments. If you had claimed at 67, you would be getting $3,515 a month. And if you claimed at 70, you'd be getting that $4,359 a month. And this chart goes all the way out to age 100. We're going to talk about longevity in just a minute, but that is a huge difference. Let's say even age 90, getting $3,600 a month versus getting $6,400 a month. That's more than double the amount of income you're getting for that 8 years that you waited way back early in your retirement. So it can make a huge difference later on, and they're using a 2% annual cost of living adjustment here. Well, what have actual cost of living adjustments been? Because I think a misconception is that there hasn't been any cost of living adjustments, or what if they don't give a cost of living adjustment? So just so you know, the administration projects a 2.4% cost of living adjustment over the next 75 years. But also, what have we seen the last few years? We've seen inflation. And so the Social Security Administration uses a consumer price index in order to determine what cost of living adjustment they give each year. So back in 2022, there was a 5.9% increase in benefits. And in 23, there was an 8.7% increase in benefits, 3.2 for 2024, 2.5% for 2025, and we can expect in October to learn what the 2026 cost of living adjustment will be for those benefits. And just so you know, there have only been 3 or maybe 4 times in the history of Social Security that the cost of living adjustment has been 0, and it's never been negative. So the upshot here is that COLAs combine with delayed credits to make delayed claiming a better deal. And that's really the reason for waiting, just based on the numbers, is yes, you get the delayed credits, but those cost of living adjustments that combine with it are really what makes it worth the wait. Also important to understand is the earnings test. So if you decide that you want to apply early and you're still working, then you will be subject to the earnings test. So a dollar in benefits will be withheld for every $2 that you earn over $23,400 in 2025. And so to avoid the earnings test altogether, you just wait until you're no longer working or you no longer have earned income in order to apply for your Social Security benefit. Okay, statement slash question number 2 that I hear a lot. I'm not going to live long, so why shouldn't I just claim my benefit while I can? Um, I mean, truly, you have no idea how many people say this when I'm teaching classes or consulting with clients. No, I'm not going to live that long. And so I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a statistical reference here. So, Social Security Administration uses mortality tables, excuse me, to determine what they think the average life expectancy of the general population is. And so, right now, if you're age 65, and you're male, your life expectancy is 82. If you're female, it's 85. And if we combine male and female in a couple, the average life expectancy of the two is age 83. So keep in mind that these mortality tables are based on the general population. It does not account for an individual's health, habits, family history, or socioeconomic status. This is just a representation of the population as a whole. When we look at things like income, does it make a difference? Does income impact life expectancy? Yes, it does. And so this chart shows the difference between life expectancy and income in the United States for women and for men. And I think what's interesting on this chart, they're looking at the bottom 1% and the top 1% of income earners. There is a 10-year difference for women from the bottom 1% to the top 1% in longevity expectations. And for men, it's a 15-year difference from the bottom 1% and the top 1%. And this statement here says the richest American men live 15 years longer than the poorest men, while the richest American women live 10 years longer than the poorest woman. Now, I'm not saying that anyone on this call is the richest or the poorest, but having income matters when it comes to your life expectancy. And why? So there's a report that addresses this. This was just released in March from the U.S. Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. And it's very dire. The headline, new report, working class Americans can expect to die at least 7 years earlier than the wealthy. Just very sad and very dire. But we're not even talking about the top 1% or the top 2%. We're talking about those with median household income of $100,000. And I thought that this bullet point was very interesting. Urban and suburban counties with a median household income of $100,000 have an average life expectancy of 81.67 years, while the rural counties with lower income have an average life expectancy of 71.7 years. That is a 10-year gap. And so if you're one of those households in $100,000 or more annual median income, you can consider yourself in the wealthy category as far as longevity is concerned. And it does make a difference on your life expectancy factor. Even just going by let me go back here. Even just going by the Social Security mortality tables, um, that's already outliving what you'll see in a minute is a break even point. So when I say break even point, what I mean is what we have to do when we do an analysis on um, your Social Security benefits is we have to think about it in terms of what if you have a short life expectancy? What if you have the given life expectancy of about 85, which is what Social Security is telling us? What if you have a longer than normal life expectancy? And we need to look at your strategy based on those longevity expectations. And this is also just another screenshot showing what a normal life expectancy versus a long life expectancy could look like. And the primary strategy in green here is waiting to file versus taking it early at age 62. And in this example, you can see that no matter if there was an early or a long life expectancy, it made a huge difference for this individual or this couple to wait to take their benefits because they got so much more money out of their Social Security over their lifetimes. And of course, when you do these type of analyses, there's a break-even point. How long do I have to wait? How old do I have to be before I reach that break-even point and I start seeing the benefit that I waited for? And in this example, the age was around 79 years. I've seen as early as 76 or 77. I've seen as late as 80 or 81. Um, but if we just go off of statistics, I mean, the Social Security Administration says we're going to live to 83 or 84 or 85 even. And so, um, because longevity is unknown, the only thing we can go on is statistics. Um, and so, in that regard, um, and I accidentally advanced, and I'll get to this in just a minute, but in that regard, when it comes to longevity, you're going to, more than likely, you're going to live longer than you think. And most folks, statistically speaking, are going to outlive their break even point. So, with that being said, we'll go on to the third phrase I hear a lot slash question, which is my friends think I'm crazy. They've all started their benefits. Why should I wait? And the short answer to me here is so that you can have the last laugh. If I go back to that photo at the beginning where it looked like everybody at the table was laughing, and they're all saying, "Why are you waiting? This is crazy." Um, Typically, waiting means you're going to have the last laugh. Um, so I also like to point out that um, unfortunately, not all of your friends are experts in something, but they're not all experts in Social Security. And what's interesting is even Social Security personnel themselves are not always experts in Social Security. So what can those Social Security personnel do for you, what they can and can't do, or your friends? They can help you estimate your individual benefits and tell you the amount that you're entitled to now. But what they can't do is they can't project future benefits through scenario planning, and they can't help you with innovative strategies that are designed to maximize your benefits. And so I often say there are lots of things to consider when deciding when to apply. And so those friends that are looking at you and telling you you're crazy, they probably don't know all of these things about you and your situation. Um, these factors are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but honestly, they're not in any specific order. So I'm going to talk about each one briefly, but I'm going to go backwards because I actually think that one of the main considerations for couples is your survivor needs. When we're looking at strategies for how to maximize Social Security between spouses, it's really, really important to decide which spouse takes their benefit when. I'm going to give an example of this in a minute, but your survivor needs are critical. What other assets are there to provide for your survivor outside of just your Social Security? How can we maximize that benefit for the spouse that outlives the other? Um, Number four, whether or not you plan to work. That's important because of a few things. First of all, it's just having the income to supplement your Social Security and your other income sources. If you have income, and you don't need to take the Social Security right away, then that can help you wait. The other thing is the earnings test. You really don't want to file early if you're going to be subject to the earnings test. Number three, the need for income. I mean, this might be the most important thing because if you need the income, then there's really not another answer to the question. If you don't have other assets that supplement your retirement income stream, and you really need that income, then that's your answer right there. You have Social Security; it's going to give you cost of living adjustments, and then the answer to why wait is don't. If you need the income, you need it. Um, Second, of course, life expectancy. We talked about that in those few slides prior, so I won't hammer that home, except just to say again that you're probably going to live longer than you think you're going to. But that leads to this number one, which is health status, and that makes a big difference. What if you're not in good health? Or what if your spouse is not in good health? And that's definitely something that you should consider in the equation of deciding when to apply. So you have to think about all of these things together. You also, or here really quickly is a couple of maximization strategies for spouses. So where the lower earning spouse's PIA is more than 50% of the higher earning spouse's PIA, then the way to maximize the Social Security of your lifetimes is for both of you to delay to age 70. This assumes that you have average or long life expectancies. And this is a maximization strategy a little bit with blinders on. It is only taking into account how much you could get from Social Security and not necessarily your other assets as well. There's also what we call a hybrid strategy, which is where lower earning spouse's PIA is less than 50% of the higher earning spouse's PIA. Then we could do what we call the bookend. The lower earning spouse could claim early, and the higher earning spouse could wait until 70. What that does is generates income sooner, but it allows that higher earning spouse's benefit to keep earning those delayed credits until that spouse reaches age 70. And then, um, as I haven't gone through all the rules, and I'm not going to today, of survivor benefits. But the rule for survivor benefits in a spousal strategy is you get to keep one benefit, but not both. You get to keep the higher benefit. So making the higher earning spouse wait until 70 means that at the end of the day, no matter which spouse outlives the other, they get the highest possible benefit. Okay, so I've talked about a lot of things. I've talked about, why am I paid into this system for a long time? Shouldn't I get the benefits as soon as possible? I don't feel like I'm going to live long. Why should I wait? And all my friends think I'm crazy. So now the question, and sometimes it is $1 million question, which is when should I apply for benefits? And the answer to this is everyone needs a personalized Social Security claiming analysis, because you have to understand how and when to apply and how your monthly benefit fits into your overall retirement income plan. We can do the analyses, and it's pretty easy to run numbers. The calculators, Social Security website has great calculators that will tell you or you can run different calculation strategies on your benefit. But it's, again, putting on those blinders and just looking at Social Security. We also have to consider your benefit in the context of pensions, IRAs and 401ks, your required minimum distributions that start at age 73 or 75, depending on your year of birth. What other investments or assets do you have that will contribute to your retirement income? And then work, of course. Do you plan to work? Are you going to continue to work? How does that not only supplement your income, but how would that subject you to the earnings test if you claim early? So the other thing that we have to do is take it in context of just your life. And this is a screenshot from our financial planning software, which I love because there are so many things that go into a successful retirement. And retirement basic living expense is and healthcare. Those are the number one things that people want to fund. I want to make sure I can pay my bills every month, and I want to make sure that, my healthcare is taken care of. But what about those bucket list things, those things that you really want to do in your retirement? So, vacations or replacing vehicles, which I'd say is a need, a necessity for most people, keeping up your home. And here, this couple had fun money. They had an RV, they had a bass boat. They want to do some things. They want to go in those early retirement years. And so, also long-term care, very important to consider. How are we going to fund our health care at the end of life? And so, we have to consider all of these things that we need to pay for in our retirement when we're choosing how to implement our retirement income strategy. And then we run trials. How does it work best? How do we pull the levers of income in the right way in order to give us our highest probability of success? So in this example, we had 1,000 trials. There were 770 successes, which means we've got a 77% probability of success. How do we make that higher? And sometimes the answer to this question is how we take our Social Security. And in this example, for this couple, it made a big difference. It moved them from a 69% probability of success if they had claimed their Social Security early to an 82% probability of success if they waited until full retirement age, to an 85% chance of success if they took the primary or the maximized strategy for them. And so, again, you have to consider how are we incorporating Social Security into the strategy that we have for our other assets as well. And I've spent some time talking about spousal maximization strategies. What about if you are single or widowed or a surviving spouse? Well, it may matter even more because your issue then sometimes potentially becomes taxes. Because as favorable as our tax code is, and I say that tongue in cheek a bit, but we do have a pretty favorable tax code in the US right now for individuals. Um, and but there is what we would call a single person or a widow or widower's penalty. Taxes are higher if you are typically if you are single. And so, how do we put together an income plan, incorporating when you take your Social Security, incorporating things like these yellow bars here are Roth conversions that will save you tax dollars over your lifetime. And so in this example, this was a single individual, and this strategy would save them over $150,000 in their lifetime on taxes. So taxes are very important to consider as well. So I've talked about a lot of things today about, claiming early or at full retirement age or late. And so here are just some key points to remember about Social Security. If you apply early, your benefit starts lower and it stays lower for life. The cost of living adjustments will magnify the impact of early or delayed claiming. The longer you live, the more beneficial it is to delay benefits. Now, we obviously don't know how long we're going to live, so that's the unknown factor. So we just have to rely on our family history and what statistically speaking is going to happen, or thinking also about our survivor, or in a spousal planning situation, what we're really planning for is the second person, the survivor. Your benefit may be taxed and reduced to cover your Medicare premiums. I didn't talk about taxes today, but your benefit will be taxed. And so it's important to plan for that. Um, I say will be taxed. There are certain situations where it won't, but for most people, your benefit will be taxed. And then, like I just mentioned, delaying benefits may give surviving spouse more income. And those are all things to think about when you decide to apply for Social Security. You have questions and we can help. And we know Social Security is such a hot topic. There are lots of things to consider about Social Security that I did not even talk about today. And as I was preparing this presentation, I was thinking about all the things that I didn't talk about, but I was trying to be very focused today on, the questions that I mentioned, and should you file early? Should you wait? And also just the peer pressure that you get when you're having lunch with your friends and they're saying, well, we've already filed for our Social Security. You're crazy for not doing it yet. And I'll just say again, having a maximization strategy is important, and having the last laugh and at some point buying lunch for those friends when your benefit is, when you're maximizing your benefit someday will make you feel good. So, um, we can help if you have questions. And Betsy, do we have any questions?
Yes, we do. And for everybody with us, if you have a question, you can put it in the chat box or the Q&A box, and we will get to that. If we don't get to your question today, we will email you and put you in touch with Deanne directly in order to answer those questions. But we had one viewer who asked, what if I take my Social Security early and invest it?
Oh, that's a really great question. In fact, I should add that to this presentation because I hear that statement a lot too, that I don't necessarily need the money, but because I'm eligible, I'm going to go ahead and take my benefit and then invest it. And the answer to that is you got to run the numbers. Because when you file early, like I mentioned, your benefit is reduced and it stays lower for life. And so if you're going to take it early, the unknown factor of investing it is, what are you going to earn on those dollars? How is it going to be invested? What's the expected rate of return there? Because it's really hard to jump over that speed bump of combining cost of living adjustments with delayed credits. And so you just got to run the numbers. For some people, that strategy could work. When we run the numbers, then, at the end of their lifetime, they end with more dollars, or they have more dollars to spend over their lifetimes. But in our experience, what we see a lot of the time is an actual delayed strategy, a delayed claiming strategy will mean you will have more money over your lifetime, even over taking it early and investing it.
Excellent. This one just came in. So after listening to this, I'm saying, oh no, what if I messed up and I already took it already and I want to change my mind?
Oh, that's another good question. So I get that a lot too. And so what if I messed up and I think I messed up and I took it already? Well, if you took it within the last year, there's a one-time undo. And you could, if it's been within the last 12 months, well, let me back up first and say the first thing you should do if it's been within the last 12 months that you started your benefit is do a maximization strategy to see what it would have looked like if you had waited. Because you could not have been wrong. You could not have messed up. You could have done the right thing. But just in case, let's say that you did take it early and that turns out that if you had waited, you would have maximized your benefit and it's been within 12 months, you could pay the benefit back, everything that you've gotten, and then it's like a reset. It's like it never happened. Um, or the other idea, if it's been beyond 12 months or you just don't want to pay it all back, is we just do the best to maximize your other sources of income. And sometimes we just have to start today. What's the best decision points based on what my current situation is today? Forget what happened in the past. Forget that I triggered that benefit, and let's try to maximize what we can do with all of our assets coordinated and incorporating that strategy for Social Security.
All right, excellent. Okay, we have one more. If I have a chronic illness or a terminal illness, shouldn't I take it ASAP so I get some of it?
That's a really good question too. So if you have health issues, a chronic terminal illness, or family history of chronic or terminal illness, and you truly have don't have a long life expectancy for yourself, um, sometimes the answer there relies not necessarily on yourself, but are you married? Do you have a spouse? And who is the higher earner over their career? And so if you're married and you are the higher earner, then it might be more beneficial for your spouse as the lower earner to file for her benefit or his benefit instead, and you continue to wait because that would help maximize your benefit for the survivor at the end of the day. Because when you're a spouse, when you're married, you really have to take the two Social Security benefits as, not his and hers, but just as one and two. And which one do we want to trigger first, and which one do we want to trigger second? And so sometimes, even if you are ill or have the expectation of family history of illness in your family history, it still behooves you to wait to file for your benefit.
Very good. Those are all the questions. Oh, wait, we have one more. The big beautiful bill. Did this new
Oh.
tax law do away with taxes on Social Security income?
Yeah, that's a big misconception right now. So the One Big Beautiful Bill Act was just passed, and it was largely promoted as doing away with taxes on your federal income taxes on Social Security. In fact, there was even a press release from the Office of the Treasury that stated that this One Big Beautiful Bill reduced Social Security taxes. The way it was worded was very misleading because no, the One Big Beautiful Bill did not do away with income tax on Social Security. In fact, it didn't change anything about tax on Social Security. But what it did was it gave seniors over age of 65 an additional standard deduction, which for based on their calculations would help offset the tax that they pay on Social Security. So in essence, it works out better for those people who delay their Social Security, because if you start your Social Security at your full retirement age, then that additional standard deduction is going to help offset the tax on it. But if you wait until 70, you still get the additional standard deduction at age 65. And that could help you do things like, I mean, just lower your income tax bill in general, or do things like potentially Roth conversions and help offset the tax on that so that later on down the road you have IRA income that's not subject to tax. So you can use that to your advantage. But the quick answer to the question is no, there is still a federal income tax on Social Security benefits.
Interesting. Well,
Mhm.
thank you so much, Deanne. You are always a wealth of knowledge, and I love hearing more about Social Security, especially because these are all questions I normally have. I know a lot of our clients do as well. If you are new to us, we do these webinars every month, and you can sign up for future webinars at elevate-wealth.com. You can click the tab that says attend a webinar. Next month, our newest advisor, Gary Stoller, will be talking about healthcare planning, so specifically Medicare. We're really looking forward to that one. Other things we have going on, we have a YouTube channel, and all month long, we have been talking about Social Security. So you just go to YouTube and look for Elevate Wealth. That's the name of our weekly webinar. And you can sign up for notifications so every time a new one drops, but we do have a new one every Thursday morning. So definitely check that out. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and we are here right in Athens, Georgia. If you have further questions and want to reach out to us, you can also go to elevate-wealth.com and click Let's Talk, and we can set you up with a complimentary consultation. Thank you again, Deanne. We really appreciate your time, and happy 20 years with Elevate.
Well, thank you, Betsy, and thanks everybody for joining today.
Look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care.